Welcome to Murder Road Trip. I'm Haley.
And I'm Jess.
We will be snacking on cabanossi and Prince Polo chocolate bars as we make our way to New York to discuss the murder of Henryk Siwiak.
Haley, what made you pick cabanossi and Prince Polo chocolate bars for today's trip?
Well, I thought it would be good to pick two Polish foods in order to honor Henryk. And cabanossi is a sort of sausage stick, and Prince Polo chocolate bars are sort of like Kit Kats.
I wonder which friend pointed that out to you.
Are you ready to go?
Let's go.
We lost the station again.
Keep trying.
I'm safe.
Hold on. Let me try this one.
Stop. That's it.
Turn it up. Today we are going to be discussing the unsolved murder of Henryk Siwiak, who was the only confirmed person murdered in New York City on 9/11 who was not involved in or around the World Trade Center. Due to the chaos that day and the enormity of the attack on the World Trade Center, police weren't able to give this crime the attention it would have otherwise gotten.
Very little is known about Henryk's early life. We know that he was born in Poland and that he had a sister, Lucina. We also know that he attended technical school after graduating high school. Apart from that, we couldn't find any more information. On the 5th of September 1981, Henryk married his childhood sweetheart, Ava. Ava worked as a biology teacher. The couple had 2 children, Gabriella and Adam. Henryk worked as an inspector for the Polish Railroad in the city of Krakow. In 2000, Henryk was laid off. After his layoff, Henryk decided to visit his sister, Lucina, who was living in New York. While visiting, Henryk was offered a job to work on a construction site. The job paid well, more than he could ever hope to earn working in Poland. Henryk and Ava decided that he would accept the job and stay in New York with his sister. He would send money home to support his family. Henryk worked many different jobs to earn money to send to his family while living in Far Rockaway, which is located in Queens.
On September 11th, 2001, Henryk was murdered. September 11th is a day that will be remembered as the day the planes hit the Twin Towers in New York. We all remember where we were and what we were doing that day. I certainly do. September 11th was the day that 19 al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 United States commercial airplanes. At 8:46 a.m., the first plane hit the North World Trade Center tower, and it collapsed less than 2 hours later. The second plane hit the South World Trade Center tower at 9:03 a.m., and it fell less than an hour later. At 9:37 a.m., a third plane hit the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. A fourth plane, known as Flight 93, was heading for possibly the White House or the Capitol. The plane was taken over by passengers and crashed in Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m. before it could reach its target. According to History.com, there were 19 hijackers on 4 planes. 2,763 people died in the towers, 343 firefighters and paramedics, 23 New York police officers, and 37 Port Authority officers also perished. 189 people were killed at the Pentagon, and 44 passengers were killed when Flight 93 crashed. It is estimated that at least 6,000 more people were injured.
Henryk arrived at his work site in Manhattan on the morning of September 11. While at work, he saw the planes hit the Twin Towers. The construction site Henryk was working on was filled with smoke and subsequently had to be shut down. Henryk travelled back home and called his wife to let her know that he was safe. His wife urged him to stay home and stay safe, but Henryk needed to earn money to send to his family. So instead, he went to a Polish employment agency in Brooklyn. The agency secured him a job for that night, cleaning a Pathmark supermarket in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighbourhood in Brooklyn. He was to start at midnight. Henryk was not familiar with the neighbourhood where the supermarket was, and he asked his landlady to help work out which subway station he needed to get off at. They looked at the map together and decided that he needed to get off at Albany Avenue in Farragut. That night, Henryk headed to work dressed in a jacket with a camouflage pattern and matching pants. He wore a backpack containing sneakers and pants for him to work in. I did a little bit of extra reading, and I read an interview with his sister, and she said in the interview that the camouflage jacket and pants was his favourite outfit, and he got it from a local Salvation Army shop. I just thought that was just really sweet that, he wanted to make a really good impression for this first night of work, so he wore his favourite outfit. Unfortunately, Henryk got off at the wrong subway stop. He got off at Albany Avenue, but in Bed-Stuy, not Farragut. He was 3 miles away from where he needed to be.
According to police, Bed-Stuy was an unsafe neighborhood, known for its drug and gang activity. There were frequent homicides in the area. Henryk was walking toward his job and was at the corner of Albany Avenue and Decatur Street when, at 11:42 p.m., gunshots rang out. Henryk had been shot in the chest with a .40 caliber pistol. He made his way to a nearby row house to get help. Henryk rang the doorbell, but when there was no answer, he turned around, went back down the stairs, fell forward, and died on the street. He was 46 years old. The people in the row house had heard the gunshots and didn't want to answer the door.
If this had been any other day, a normal day, around 7 detectives would have been dispatched to the scene. This was not a normal day. With resources stretched thin, one officer was sent to the crime scene. One photo was taken, and the row house occupant was quickly interviewed. The occupant said that they had heard men arguing on the street before the gunshots. Instead of the usual forensic team, the only team available was the evidence collection team, who usually attend non-violent crimes. It was a police department doing the best they could with very limited resources.
Because of the lack of witnesses and the lack of investigation, the motive behind Henryk's murder is unknown. It is unlikely to have been a robbery gone wrong, since he still had $70 cash in his pocket when the police officer arrived. It could have been an attempted robbery, and since Henryk didn't speak much English, he may not have known what was happening and therefore didn't hand over his valuables and was shot. But why wouldn't the robber check his pockets before leaving the scene?
Another theory is that because Henryk was lost and trying to get to work, he asked for directions but stumbled upon a drug deal. He could have been killed to stop him from talking and telling the police what he saw.
It is also possible that Henryk's murder was a hate crime. Henryk had darker features and could have been mistaken as being from the Middle East. With the events of the day and it being well known that the terrorists responsible for the attacks were from the Middle East, it's possible that Henryk was killed for looking Middle Eastern.
Police offered a $12,000 reward for information that led to an arrest. To this day, the money has not been claimed. Henryk's murder, the only non-terrorist related murder in New York that day, is still unsolved. Henryk's daughter was 18 at the time of the murder and his son was 11. Today they are 35 and 28 respectively, and they still don't know why their father was killed.
This case broke my heart. It's not overly gruesome or anything like that, but just the idea of this guy moving to America to try to provide for his family and having to work the day of the terrorist attacks just so he could send money home to his family and being murdered because he got off at the wrong subway stop just kills me inside.
It's just... his murder is so much a case of wrong place, wrong time. He really was literally just in the wrong place at the wrong time on the wrong day. If it had been a day or two later and he'd gotten off at the wrong stop, at least there might have been more of an investigation. But the thing that really broke my heart was that there was just no one to attend to this crime. And the officers that were working in New York had been on duty since 8-9 o'clock that morning dealing with the terrorist attacks. There was just no one to go and give him the investigation that he deserved.
Honestly, I'm surprised that even one police officer was able to make it to the scene.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll just play devil's advocate. I don't know that even if an evidence collection team or an investigation had gone on that anybody would really know anything, because if it was gang activity, they typically don't talk. I don't know. I think that he probably asked for directions because he was lost and just stumbled into something that people didn't want him to see.
I agree. I think that that's the most likely scenario, is that he asked for directions and asked someone who didn't want to be asked. But I agree. I think that even if there was a proper investigation, the killer probably wouldn't have been found, but it's just sad that he didn't even get that chance of having a proper investigation.
Oh yeah, everybody deserves that, and it really is just a case of wrong place, wrong time, like you said. And literally wrong time, meaning more than just walking up and seeing something at the wrong time, but literally also on the wrong day.
Yeah. This one, I know that you talked to me about this one before we recorded, and about how it was just a really heartbreaking one. And I agree. As soon as I read it, I just went, this poor man and his family, and especially being so far away from his wife and children. It's just all really, really sad.
Yeah, it really is. It's so heartbreaking. I never heard of it before. Also, his crime probably didn't get a lot of space in newspapers because everyone was talking about the terrorist attacks. And so he just really didn't get a lot of attention in more than one way.
I think I'm just trying to remember what I read. I think I read that his murder was only published in a Polish newspaper until, like, the next month. I think it was a whole month before English-speaking newspapers picked up on it.
So sad.
It really is.
Thank you to content editor Amber Bonnet.
Until next time, please remember to check your back seats, and we'll see you at the next rest stop.